Oh, hang on a second. This is Philippe dialing in. I'll just take his call. Hi, Philippe.
Hey, Scott. How are you doing, mate?
Good, 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 good. Are you on cam or just...
I am not sure. Let me see.
I don't see you on cam. I just see a black screen here.
Let me see. There should be a camera.
Ah, it's not saying. There you go. Now I see you. But I just see you from... You need to lower the cam a bit. Point towards you. But yeah, that's better. That's a little bit lower. No, that's fine. We can see your face. That's fine. Okay, lovely to meet you, Philippe. We've spoken a lot on email, and we got about 60 people in the side chat at the moment, or in the actual channel. That's better. Now that's perfect. Okay, so please tell me about your life journey, Philippe, because you're a fascinating man. I mean, we've talked a bit about your history.
Well, the earliest beginnings were a world traveler. My father was a director of a very large multinational. So when I was 2 years old, we ended up in Asia for a number of years where my brothers were born. And after that, we returned to Europe, and where then my dad was transferred to Colombia, to South America. And from there, he was transferred to Greece, Athens, and from there to Germany, which was his last posting. I studied, went through university, graduated, did my national service. I was an officer, and basically set up in practice. Things became rather hairy in 1981. I was in South Africa, and in 82, PW Botha, I think it was 82, declared a state of emergency. And the area I lived in was still very reasonable. I had my practice in the Kini Center in Johannesburg, same place where the American consulate was situated. Joburg was still a very different place in those days. And I lived in an area which was between Joburg and Pretoria on a small holding where I kept horses. And I had a wonderful life there. I was a member of the Ananda Club, and really had a phenomenal life, wonderful quality of life. In the mid-80s, things started to change where we were, because we started to get tax in our area. And at that time, I was, as was everybody else in our area, just about, in the police reserve, in a uniformed capacity. We fell under Weerder Bridge, which was, Weerderbrug was an area in Pretoria. And we had a huge support from our police station. They equipped us, they trained us, they armed us, gave us a huge amount of support. We in turn did our stuff and served a huge number of hours of duty and kept the lid on our area as best we could. I was then the first reservist working in the detective section. I did rapes and suicides from Friday afternoon till Monday morning, so that the permanent force member could have a weekend off, and basically got the captain's car and an Uzi and a radio, and that was it. Sometimes it was very busy, sometimes not. And still did the average duties with everybody else for responses, armed responses in our area. We had an armed vehicle, an armored vehicle, which was given to us for duty. It was a Boerbok. It was basically a Land Cruiser which was armored. And things got worse and worse and worse and worse. I shut down my practice in the Kini Center, went to Midrand, and things became very, very dangerous in our area, unfortunately. Many attacks, there were assaults, rapes, murders, attacks on animals. Animals were harmed. And without the protection and the cooperation of our police officers, we wouldn't have made it there. Ultimately, it became a matter of very serious trouble when the Deep Sloot squatter camp was set up. We spent a huge amount of money as an area. We were all pretty well to do there, and we spent hundreds of thousands in those days to do an investigation whether it was going to work or not, to have Deep Sloot squatter camp, and then all the other squatter camps would be emptied into it. That was the idea. We didn't realize then that the exercise was an exercise in futility because the decisions were already made. Deep Sloot became what it was expected to be. It was a very dangerous area which basically made forays into our area, killed people. There were a couple of New Zealand boys that were killed. That made the news, and ultimately it became totally untenable and insane. And I went to Durban, to Natal, and lived in Umhloti, and commuted between Durban and Joburg to my practice. And I served then. I was transferred to the Durban Flying Squad under command of who was then Colonel Hamman, senior superintendent as they were called in those days. Colonel Hamman, who was a superb guy, the Durban Flying Squad. And eventually in 2008, Marema proclaimed that he was going to nationalize, that he was going to expropriate beachfront property, private game reserves and private golf estates. And he was not going to give any money unless they chose to do that. And the ANC said in those days that it wasn't on their agenda. 3 days later it was. And they were going to block access to any court, including the Constitutional Court. That was the idea. In 2008, my aunt, Jana de Korte, in Franschhoek, was gang raped by 3 blacks who were out on bail in her studio and murdered.
Oh no!
And, these bastards had robbed her as well. They smashed her head in with a hammer when they were done, but she had skin under her fingernails, which was found. And one of the detectives who did a bail address check for the offence that they were out on bail for found stuff belonging to her, and they then went to her house and found her in the studio. The interesting thing was they were taken to court, but there is no record whatsoever of a trial, let alone a conviction or a sentence. And that, together with the threats of expropriation of beachfront property that we had a beautiful home on the beach in Umhloti, motivated me to call it a day and get out. And we set up practice in Harley Street and in Scotland. We've lived here about 10 years now, and we enjoy every minute of it. It's absolutely stunning and very beautiful, very peaceful. We still have a home in South Africa. We visit South Africa once, twice a year. I still have people that I look after in South Africa and see them when I'm there. I was the chair of the Durban branch of the Natal Hunting and Nature Conservation Association. I'm still a member of it. I'm a dedicated hunter in terms of status in law. I passed the exams. I still hunt there as well. I basically still, in fact, have a home. I never really immigrated. I still have a home in South Africa. I still have activities. I still have business interests and patients in South Africa. But every time we get there, it's crazier. Many of my friends have now been assaulted or threatened, or some have been killed. We have family members who farm, who've been attacked, who have been shot. who have been injured. And we try and help where we can. Two of my brothers immigrated to Europe. One married a Dutch girl, and they went to South Africa to see game reserves. He took her to South Africa. And he was okay, but when the guys who came off the plane for the next tour hopped on the bus just outside Tambo, they were attacked and the bus was robbed. They were manhandled, pistol whipped, there were guns pointed at them. The guns didn't go off, which was lucky. The driver managed to free himself. And tourists were admitted to a hospital. The Minister of Tourism, the Minister of Police, and the Dutch ambassador came to visit in hospital. 2 days later, there was a special flight to bring the whole lot back home again. And I believe that there were a couple of attacks on buses with tourists since then, although I'm not sure of that. It basically is no longer a viable proposition to live there as a white. We've been fairly lucky. I was shot through my hand and survived it. But I don't really want to. That bullet was meant for my head. I hit the gun away from my head. It went through my hand instead. No, and I had a very understanding magistrate. The two guys that did that were wanted on a series of very serious crimes, and they also had a stolen firearm with which they shot me. The magistrate wanted to know what I was doing in his court. And I doubt that if I were to defend myself now and shoot and survive it, that I would get off. I have no wish to test it. We've been very lucky. We have helped South Africans wherever we could. In fact, we have a young, not so young lady here who has left South Africa a week ago, and we've taken her around our area in Scotland to show her what is available, what it looks like, what to do, what not to do. And my wife is helping her now with her CV and job applications. She's staying with us for a couple of days. And then later she will bring her daughter out to meet her here. And we've tried to help where we could. I'm still in touch with what happens in South Africa. The press releases are insane. There was a thing in the Cape where they reckoned that they found in 3 days 10,000 rounds of ammunition, 545 firearms, arrested some 4,000 suspects, got 3,000 kilos of dagga, thousands of pills. When you read these statements, that's absolutely insane. There are records that could support that, because all these bits of evidence need to be booked into the stations. The evidence register, the SAP13. There are also cell registers where the suspects need to be booked in, and of course they need to be arraigned in court within 2 court days of their arrest, excluding the weekend days. An influx of 4,000 suspects in a couple of days in court would make headlines all over the place. There was no mention of it at all. So I don't think that ever happened. I think people are just sucking these figures out of their thumb.
I'm sure that's exactly what's happening.
All of it can be checked. Yeah. Well, all of it can be checked, and if it doesn't exist, then the commissioners must actually be locked up for fraud. But they don't. There is absolutely no reason why they should stop what they're doing. The ongoing threats with regard to driving the whites into the sea, expropriating property. I think every time there is an embarrassment somewhere along the line, the ANC basically turns on whites and starts threatening them and hurting them. Yeah. So if we can help people get a better life somewhere else and assist them, we will, and we have. I've corresponded with quite a few. Unfortunately, some of them are not really realistic about what they're doing. We're not going to pay their fares. We're not going to pay for their visas. I'm not going to give them jobs. In the case of a couple, we went out of our way to help them, to try and help them. And went to another end of Scotland where I knew there were jobs for a young lady who really needed a job very badly. And I wasn't nearly there. I think she might still have a chance when Brexit happens and there is a huge shortage of people. I think things are going to be lifted then with regard to EU citizenship as a requirement for a job in the UK. So I might be able to help her then. But there's been a bit of abuse about it, which is not so pleasant. And there have been very genuine inquiries where we've tried to help where we could. Sadly, what I found was that they haven't really done any homework at all. They just want to get out, and that is not going to work. They need to come here and invest in a couple of weeks traveling through the UK to find out where they wish to work, where they wish to settle, what they want to do, get their qualifications streamlined where it's necessary. Maybe they have to sit exams, they get registrations. None of that is done, unfortunately, when they write to me. And they really have no idea. They have no idea what they're in for or where they're going and why they want to be here.
Yeah.
It's more a knee-jerk reaction than anything else.
Philippe?
So my correspondence is really about, guys, do your homework.
Yeah.
Work out why you want to be here.
Philippe, I just want to say to the channel, because I haven't actually mentioned this, but Philippe is actually looking after a large portion of our migration inquiries that are going through to the UK, Scotland area, and he's doing a fantastic job. And he's a very, very busy man, so it's great to have him on board. And the young lady who's going to be on live stream very shortly, her name is Sue, and as Philippe mentioned, she's just left South Africa, so it'll be very interesting to get her impressions of things and how they're changing. Now, having said that, Philippe, let's get back to our discussion here. For you, how have things changed in South Africa since 1994? I mean, seeing you go back there on a regular basis.
There is an increase in ill will more than anything else. In the last few years, we come to South Africa twice a year. The aggression we have seen in shops, in banks, when we're in a queue and they tell you to get to the back of the queue or else. Very poor behavior. That has increased exponentially. We live in a gated complex on the beach. And when the last time we were there were 3 attacks. They actually broke through the wall and then went up the roofs and went through the roof and attacked people in flats. That didn't really happen before. That is quite new. We went to one of the hotels in the Drakensberg and went to look at rock carving. And the Zulu guide, hell of a nice guy, he said, well, he's not too sure whether we should go because they had been attacked. There had been bandits going around attacking tourists, and he feared for his life. I was armed. I showed him my firearm, and he was smiling from ear to ear. He said, let's go. I believe the current commissioner of police wants to do away with firearms for personal defense. In that country, I don't know what the guy has been smoking, but he must have been smoking his socks or something stronger. If that is what he wants, then I don't expect to see any parliamentarians with a small army of bodyguards, because there won't be any need for it.
Yeah.
That sort of thing, it has changed. Reports from friends who now live behind wire on farms who've been attacked. One of my wife's family friends' farms has been subject to frequent attacks. They've threatened to burn all the cattle. They've threatened to burn the house. They've shot him already through his eye and through his leg. When they tried to shoot her, they were in their 70s. The gun didn't go off, so they beat her up with the gun. Those are things that they did happen, but not in that area where they live. Now it has reached that area. The amount of violence, the viciousness, the meaningless violence. I can understand if you're really hungry that you steal to eat.
Yeah.
But you can't explain to me that you steal to eat when you hamstring a bunch of horses and cut pieces of steak out of living cattle, as happened in my smallholding area. And we ended up shooting each other's animals because the vet was too distraught to do anything about it. And that's what we had to do to finish them off, to stop their suffering. That sort of meaningless stuff and torture, the amount of torture I've seen is beyond belief. That has nothing to do with being hungry at all.
Yeah.
That is just plain mean. And really not much has changed when it comes to corruption, because in '94 there was the arms scandal and the strategic oil reserve that went one way. And there was a very good book written by Andrew Feinstein, who was an ANC MP, who actually tried to get to the bottom of this whole arms scandal nonsense, the wholesale theft, and didn't get anywhere. And he was in exile. He was in ANC exile, Andrew. And he had his heart in the right place, and he wanted to know what was going on, and he got nowhere. He's now I think he lives in London now. He had enough. Subsequent to that, of course, there is a brilliant book by Jacques Pauw, The President's Keepers, which was equally well researched, maybe even better. Andrew's was basically based on his own experiences. Jacques did research second to none. I've got the utmost respect for what he has done. And then, of course, after that, the book by Ernst Roets, Kill the Boer, is again a superb piece of analysis. We've got it here as well. As the ANC got into power, all the theft and all the violence, and I think it was more a distraction than anything else, get the spotlight off them. And every time they're embarrassed, they go for something outrageous to take the spotlight off. Like with the land grab now. That has been documented as ab initio, as from the very beginning. It is not new. But the escalation of violence and the brutality of it, robbing gun stores, attacking. I've been in the police reserve for many, many years, and I was very proud to serve. And we had blacks, we had Indians, we had whites as our commanders. And there was a particularly superb captain that we served under, permanent force guy. And there was a remark made, don't we see color? And we said, yes, we do. We see blue. Color had absolutely nothing to do with it. We were in the reserve. We risked our lives together. We served everybody. There was no issue of somebody is black, so you let him be killed or be raped or whatever. Or somebody is white and needs special attention. There was none of that whatsoever. I didn't see any of it. In fact, there was a point made that we did serve everybody and did serve all who needed us, and equally well. Now it is a circus. I've dealt with police officers, and they're a disgrace, an utter disgrace. The professionalism is gone. How they allow themselves to be disarmed is beyond me. When I was on the flying squad, we carried our fives. No one would even try, actually. When I was in Villa Bridge, we were issued automatic weapons, which we kept at home with a permit and sidearms and ammunition. Not one of those disappeared. Not one. It just didn't happen. Nobody was stupid enough to try it, but acts against the police started already, of course, with Winnie Mandela when she phoned the radio and insisted on assistance because there were problems. And she didn't get anything from the police station, so she went right up to the top. And they ordered a number of radio cars to go and help her. And they went promptly into an ambush, and they were shot to pieces. Nothing happened there. And similarly now, and all of that was documented. It is well known. It's documented. It's the meaningless, mindless violence, the violence for effect, purely for effect, for theatrical effect. Kill the Boer. What do you do with a state president who screams in Parliament, "Bring me my machine gun, one settler, one bullet"?
Yeah.
What's he thinking?
Yeah.
What is he thinking? Yeah, if at all. What do you do with an MP who is a leader of an opposition party who says, "We are not going to murder whites"? Well, for the moment, not for the moment, but I can't say anything for the future.
Julius Malema.
What is this? Yes, exactly. What is this? Or another one who says that they're going to drive the whites into the sea.
Yeah.
And that all the property belongs to them. We still have property in Hermanus. We've got a house and a flat in Hermanus. And all of that belongs to them now, and they can do what they like, and the stuff in the sea belongs to them as well. This mindless idiocy. These statements were not made in the beginning, they're made now. But the expropriation threats go back to 2008, when they threatened to expropriate private game reserves, private golf estates, and beachfront property, and specifically excluded access to any court, including the Constitutional Court. If you listen to the utterances of Justices Pretorius and Froneman, and their words that I understand to mean that Afrikaners are not protected by the Constitution, Afrikaans and Afrikaners in their culture are not protected by the Constitution because they are oppressors. Well, that's not what it says in the Constitution itself. And we must place our faith in these guys. That's when you get lawlessness, when you have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
When the very people who must uphold the Constitution, which is a document with equality for all and rights for all and protection for all, when they start excluding population groups and cultures on the basis of, as I understand it, on the basis of the past. I thought that the Constitution drew a line under the past, but that's not really what it is, and that is fairly recent. The whole road from '94 with all the theft and corruption and nepotism, kleptocracy, has become worse and worse and worse because there is nothing stopping them. No one has been taken to court to go to jail and sentenced, or no one. And these
look at the Zondo Commission. I mean, it's had so much evidence of corruption at the highest levels, and nothing has been taken. No action has been taken.
I don't think it is about taking action. I think it is more for effect than anything else. I don't know what Judge Zondo is going to do with the results of his inquiry when he is finished. We need to give him a chance to finish up what he's doing. But so far, nothing has been done. There have been no referrals that I'm aware of to the Director of Public Prosecutions, the DPP.
Yeah.
Nothing. The guys in the warrant for the arrest of one of the Guptas has been cancelled.
Yeah, I saw that.
No one pays anything back. No one goes to jail. No one is charged. No one answers criminally. And it goes all the way. And every time there is someone else indicted or exposed, and it means absolutely nothing. Nothing.
Yeah.
Whether it is true or not, the latest is that 1,081 white engineers in ESCOM are going to be fired to comply with BEE, and then a further 2,000. So there's 3,000. I don't know how they're going to replace them. Maybe they have to bring in white engineers from Europe.
Well, I actually had
but they don't want the direct ones.
Yeah, I had a video about that a few days ago, and you know there was some questions about the date of the article related to that, but just yesterday a story came out in a totally different news avenue which confirmed that this was happening, and it gave exactly the same figures.
It's how on earth do you expect to attract capital? I don't even know if they're serious about it.
Yeah.
I mean, not even a half-wit can believe in good faith that anyone is going to stick a factory in the ground where there is no power to run it,
Well, you know,
and where he has
it's
disposed of half the share
yeah,
to teach someone's cousin.
it's interesting because the Chinese have been given the authority now to build an industrial site up in Limpopo. It's going to be west of Polokwane, basically, and they're going to be building a power plant there, which is going to be doing 4.8, I think is it megahertz or megawatts or whatever it is.
Megawatt.
Yeah, megawatts, 4.8 million megawatts, and all that power will only be used in the industrial estate that they're building for the Chinese. So it's going to be a Chinese area. It's going to have malls, shops, and everything. It's quite incredible. You know, China are basically going to take over, while ESCOM just falls in a heap.
Well, what is interesting is that I think, I speak under correction, but I think it was PE, where there are 12 or 13 Chinese SAPs police stations now.
That's right, yeah.
How do you do that? How do you get that right? I mean, you don't service the local population, but you can do it for the Chinese. And, well, of course, the Chinese are brilliant businessmen. But if you have a look at their history in Africa, looking at Kenya and other countries where they built a railway, and the railway was basically built to take their ore to the harbour, and if the locals wanted to use the railway for freight or transport, if there was any space, any capacity left, then they could use it, but otherwise not.
Yeah.
The Chinese are there for the Chinese, which is why they're so successful. And I wonder how much of South Africa has now been sold to the Chinese, payable wherever. There is not much left. It is such a sad situation. I love South Africa with all my heart, and to see it going downhill the way it is. We've got here in northeastern Scotland about 105 South Africans, and if you work out the cost of our education, I have postgraduate qualifications and right up to the very top. The cost of my education alone is insane. I did all of it through bursaries, but it still has to be paid for. We're looking at medical specialists here who are highly respected. They're very, very competent. They're highly respected people. We've got 105 of them. Gynaes, pediatricians, surgeons, basically all specialties, even dentists and maxfacs, maxillofacial surgeons. We've got them all here. Because Aberdeen was the capital of the oil capital of Europe. All the head offices were here for the oil rigs, all the drilling that's done here. And the top engineers, South Africans.
Yeah.
The top guys working on the rigs, lots of them are South Africans, highly qualified, highly specialized South Africans, and they're making a killing. And their education costs an absolute fortune. They're engineers, they're professional engineers, but their experience is priceless.
Yeah.
And these guys are here, their children are here. We meet some of them are my patients, and we talk about going back or not going back and what are the opinions, and they've been on holidays and what have you. They will not return.
Yeah.
Those guys are top drawer. Absolutely top drawer. We see the results of their work here in the medical field, in engineering. No country can afford to lose these people.
Oh, the brain drain is catastrophic.
Brilliant people. But there is no money to replace these guys, to replace the training for these guys. The entry standards for us at the time, you had to be the best of the best to get in.
Yeah.
If you see the dumbing down, which is another aspect I've seen, Scott, in since '94, the dumbing down of schools. One of my heroes is a colored prof, and Prof Janssen.
Right.
And Prof Janssen was in exile, and he came back and he became caretaker of a number of universities that were ailing, and he turned them around. And Prof. Janssen is a guy I just hold in the highest regard. The guy is my hero.
Yeah.
And he said that if the schools don't deliver quality to the universities are going to spend at least 2 to 3 years bringing them up to a standard that they should have left school with,
right,
to start their academic training. But they only have them for 3 to 4 years. So the academic training, the academic level standards are only going to be available for 2 years. That's what you have them for.
You know what is
now,
crazy?
How can you run a country with that?
You know
and
what is
Prof. Janssen is now at Stanford. I think he went to Stanford. He is a superb guy. And he called a spade, and he has every right to do it, because the guy was in exile. He came back and he said, "Let's get this country running."
Yeah.
And the man is a giant, and he is a colored. He has the right to criticize. He's been there. He's got the T-shirt, and when he comes up with the dumbing down since '94 of the high schools, the numeracy, the literacy, the quality of teachers, the quality of the bureaucrats that run the departments, the schools without books, schools without toilets, schools without schools.
Yeah.
What are you doing? And they actually don't care, because all they really care about is stealing.
Yeah.
They don't really care what these youngsters, what these children represent, and I couldn't care less what color they are.
Yeah.
These kids are our future. Somewhere in these mobs of kids, whites, blacks, Indians, coloreds, makes no difference to me. There are a couple of geniuses who are going to propel our country forward. And what we are doing is making sure that they can't, and they won't.
Yeah.
We're also making sure that the bright kids that we need, who have the mental capacity to absorb a medical education, an engineering education, that they will never make it, and they will leave. They will go. The ones that we have here are doing so well, those South African kids. They end up with engineering qualifications. They end up with medical qualifications. They're not going back. There's not a hope in hell that you'll see them again. It's not happening. And I'm not saying that the current crop of engineers and doctors is substandard. But from what I've heard, it may well be that quite a few of them are, and it doesn't matter.
Well, you know what I'm hearing? I'm hearing that nurses are now being given basically the authority to act like doctors, because they're so short of doctors now. And apparently they've got like this package where they can read up, if someone's got a particular symptom, they can read into this package as to what it is likely to be the reason they've got that ailment or whatever it might be. I mean, it is becoming so basic and so retarded now in the health departments. It's crazy.
The problem is that nurse practitioners, that's probably what you're referring to, nurse practitioners are not doctors. They will never be doctors.
Exactly.
If it comes to a repeat prescription and following up on symptoms, for a repeat prescription, if you don't want to bother a doctor, perhaps yes. But when it comes to differential diagnostics, where a whole scope of symptoms must be taken into account to find out what is wrong, and what works is as important to come to a diagnosis as what doesn't work. It is the combination that tells you what's what. Not chasing a particular symptom, but chasing the totality of symptoms, and doing and initiating the relevant, the necessary investigations, whether it is imaging or lab investigations, makes no difference. You need to be able to have access in your training to that full gambit of tests and tools.
Yeah.
And a nurse simply doesn't have that. It's not her job. Her job is looking after patients, and that is a specialist field in itself. It is hugely important. We can't do their job. They can't do our job, but
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to do her job, and she shouldn't have to do mine.
Yeah.
Nursing is a specialist profession, and they are highly trained. They are highly knowledgeable, they're highly trained, and when it comes to experience, they're second to none. Without qualified, really professionally qualified nurses and experienced nurses, disciplined nurses, motivated nurses, whatever we do with a patient or for a patient is meaningless.
Yeah.
Because they won't survive the next phase when they need them. Similarly, we have a job to do. We are not senior, we are different. We have a very different mindset, we train differently, we look at things differently. And when we are done with our bit, we hand them over. And at the end of the day, they have to deliver a healthy patient back to society.
Right.
And they are our eyes and ears. If they don't know what to look for and what to observe and report back on, we can't tweak treatments for a patient.
Yeah.
These people are singularly important. They're critical. And what we've seen with nursing standards, the drop in nursing standards, is insane.
Yeah.
Patients do not have a chance if these guys can't do their jobs because they have inadequate training.
Yeah.
They are vital. They are not dumb people. They are specialists. And we have the utmost respect for them. We need them. We can't work without them. We're useless without them.
I think, like so many other industries, the health industry, the quality of the people coming out is far lower than it should be in South Africa.
The problem is that if the old computer adage comes to mind: shit in, shit out. Yeah, if you put crap into a program, you get crap out at the end of the day. And if the standard, and that's where Prof. Janssen's observations are so critical. And I think a lot of the academics now say, guys, what are we doing? Yeah, when we end up with people who have to answer very simple questions, and of those simple questions, they only have to pass 30%.
It's crazy.
What are we doing?
Yeah,
what are we doing? We are doing these people a disfavor because they cannot hope to qualify with a reasonable standard. They haven't got it. They either haven't been taught it or they haven't got it in them. And with that, you dumb down the whole system.
Yeah.
It's insane. In engineering, to work your way out of a problem, engineers are very special people because they deal with problems. They need to solve problems that they haven't seen before. Most engineering problems are one-offs, and you need a particular problem-solving attitude to dig down into the components and come up with a solution.
Yeah.
You can't always draw on experience or on precedent, like in law, for example. Engineers get a fresh problem and they deal with it with a fresh solution. Mm. And to do that, you need an IQ of about 125 or more.
I think that's a problem.
To be able to get through that. And if you admit people to engineering faculties who sit with an IQ of even 100, which is a European norm, the average, they can't do it.
Yeah.
They will not be able to grasp engineering problems. Where you have a university like Cape Town, UCT, where students are saying that science, physics, science, maths are not African subjects and they should be scrapped.
Yeah.
What sort of an academic is that? What sort of a future leader of men is this? Yeah. What nonsense is this?
Yeah, exactly.
How on earth do you hope to get there? These are things that have become more to the fore since '94. Go back to your question. In the last few years, and it is escalating. It is so sad. If I look at my training and the ongoing training we experience, we are the only guys in the UK who have an ISO rating, a British standards rating, and a European norms rating for diagnostics, for treatments, for aesthetic medicine, and also for pharmacology, biopharmacology.
Right.
We're South Africans.
Yeah, yeah.
And our standards don't fall. We get audited every year, and our standards, our ratings are renewed every year following the audit. The exams that we pass when we go for refresher courses and for the training, we go as far as the States. In the States, it's simple. Yeah, we do a lot of laser medicine and surgery here. We have invested very, very heavily in equipment in our practices. I'm a Harley Street guy in London, and I'm here. When we went to the States, we closed down our practices for training. We went intern to learn very specialized things. And within the first 2 days, a number of our guys, interns were sent home. They didn't have it. And it was brutal. You just go. You haven't got it, you're gone. And we set tests and exams every day in the beginning, early in the morning, and at the close of day, and we had quizzes in between. And we had to score 85% for all of them, and for our finals as well. Score less than 85%, you don't get your ticket. It is as simple as that.
Wow.
And why shouldn't it be like that? Why must you dumb it down?
Absolutely.
I was one particular friend of mine. We became friends. He was what they call in America they call it an emergency room physician, an A&E consultant in the UK, and a CAS specialist, casualty, in South Africa. That guy was good, and there were certain things, certain procedures he just could not do. I think he had a block. He passed everything else. And they allowed him to come back every time a class went through the sequence of things that he still had to pass. And until he did at 85%, they wouldn't give him his ticket.
Right.
This guy was seriously good, seriously clever. He passed everything else. And I think for 2 or 3 classes after hours, he was still struggling. And he wouldn't give up. And he will make it.
Yeah.
But the standards are there, and they will not dumb it down.
Yeah, no.
It's as simple as that. They will not dumb it down.
No.
I went for training in advanced pain management in Milan, at the University of Milan. And the prof, he was a neurologist by training,
Right.
made each one of us do things that we had never done before, procedure-wise.
Yeah.
And none of us liked the idea because you worry.
Yeah.
He couldn't care less. He was going to give you a ticket which enabled you to do these procedures.
Yeah.
Rendered you're competent to do it. And he wanted to see it.
Yeah.
And if you didn't get your ticket finished.
Yeah.
That was it. There was no ifs and buts, and I passed everything else. Didn't want to know about it.
Yeah. Now, Philippe,
And
can I just
mindset.
say, you're a very busy and successful businessman and very good at what you do. What prompted you to come to the aid of fellow South Africans? Like what you're doing
We've
now.
actually always done it. We've done it from the background. When we came to the UK, there was no one to tell us what to do, how to do it, and it was not easy. Mm-hmm. And we made a couple of very expensive mistakes. Had we had advice, we wouldn't have made those mistakes. It's as simple as that. We would have saved ourselves a lot of time and certainly a whole lot of money, a stack of money. We learned from those mistakes. And as new guys came in, we were contacted and said, look, so-and-so said, can you help? And what do we do? And what is the best way of doing it?
Yeah.
From simple shopping, where do you get the most value for shopping? Where do you buy what? How do you go about getting a car without being ripped off? And what is unavoidable in terms of expenses? What isn't? And how do you get prices down? How do you get a property, a rental property? Because it was difficult to get a bond if you hadn't been here for 3 years. How do you go about it? Where do you live? What are normal rentals? What aren't? What are the hidden costs? Mm. So we took these people under our wing and we helped them as best we could. We've always done that. And whenever we went back to South Africa, we were approached and said, isn't it difficult to settle? And what do you do? And how do you find rental properties? How do you find schools? Are schools expensive? What happens when there are holidays? Where do you park your kids? We ended up answering questions as to how to furnish your life in this area of Scotland as efficiently as possible.
Right.
We've always done that because we have no. The fact that we don't live there anymore, the fact that I'm angry about my aunt. I miss her. I miss her very dearly every day, just about. I don't hold it against South Africans. I have lots of black patients here from because of the oil industry, from Nigeria, from Ghana, and some of them actually fly over from David Marsh and Total. They fly over from Copenhagen, where the offices are. If we were racists, they wouldn't come to us with their families for help, for specialized help.
Exactly.
They'll seek us out. And they also ask questions. Yeah, there are things that we can help them with, that we can assist them with. It goes beyond medical advice. We've got a lot of experience now in how to do things and what we would have done had we known.
Yeah.
And
can I ask
we are not angry with Africans. We try to help them. We try to give back what we've learned.
Yeah. Can I ask you?
And if we can
I ask
yes.
you, what are the most common issues that people wanting to migrate to the UK face if they're coming from South Africa?
The main one is that they don't actually have any idea of what they're in for. They forget that the UK is very diverse. Wales is not Kent, and Kent is not the Midlands, and Midlands is not the borders, and it certainly isn't Scotland, and Aberdeenshire is not Glasgow.
Right.
There are pros and cons wherever you are, and there are different jobs available in different regions and different costs associated with it.
Right.
The biggest problem that we find is that they have made no effort whatsoever to acquaint themselves with the UK in any shape or form. They have no idea. Because when I ask, why here? They have no answer. Now they think that because I'm here I can get them a job and a home and whatever else. This is a highly specialized area. If you're in the oil industry or in engineering or in medicine, you get a job very easily. But there are a number of jobs where you can't. And they don't know. They have no idea about the climate. They have no idea about schools. There is free education here. Sometimes they think that because there's free education, they can park their kids. There's free university here if you live here in Scotland. But you have to have lived here for 3 years.
Right.
They have no idea what they need to do visa-wise, if they even qualify. None whatsoever. They think they can pack a bag. I get inquiries about funding a visa application, funding fares. A couple of times I've had inquiries from people who say we need visa money and we need fares and we need to be put up by people, we need to be accommodated, fed.
And that's not what you do.
But we've got money and we want to invest that somewhere else. Say, what does it take us to get on the dole and to get benefits?
That's crazy.
What are they thinking?
That's crazy.
What are they thinking? They actually haven't even read up the simplest things which take you 10, 15 seconds on the internet.
Yeah.
I have to do for them and actually refer them to a website. They don't. They I don't know, they're in blissful ignorance. I don't know what they think they're doing here. There are some people who are brilliantly qualified and I think should do very, very well here. And I've got them on my short list. And when things change with the Tier 2, the short, the specialized professions, the scarce professions list, I will let them know, and I'll do my best to help them settle here. But people actually do not make the slightest effort to acquaint themselves with this part of the world. None, literally none. They have no idea. And I don't know if they don't care or if they are totally ignorant. They're not going to cut it.
Yeah, no.
And that is, I have to go back and say, listen, guys, why do you pick this area?
Yeah.
What is it that attracts you? Do you have family here? Do you have an infrastructure here? Do you have backup to assist you with kids? Do you know anyone here? You know, you're going to cut loose. They actually have no idea what immigration is about.
Yeah.
They're going to lose their history, the places where they used to go for birthdays, restaurants, things they experienced. Their family unit, their extended family unit, it's gone.
Yeah.
The friends that they had are gone. There are none here. You've got to start again from nowhere.
Yeah.
They have no idea they're going to be on their own, and they're going to have to slug it out. And when you say, guys, you're going to be on your own, are you ready for that? Do you know what is waiting for you? No. They haven't even thought about it. And that is what I find again and again and again. It is a knee-jerk reaction, Scott.
Must be very frustrating.
We want out. Yeah. That's really it. And if we want out, can I come to the UK and will they give me a job and will they look after my kids and will they give me health care? No, they won't. They won't. And a modicum of effort would have answered those questions for them. Now, I'm not there to do it.
Philippe?
Yeah, it's.
Philippe,
I will help them.
Yeah.
I will help them.
Tell me about your work with Narina. You mentioned that she's doing a great job the other day. Narina, tell me about your work with Narina, the lady who basically passes leads on to you.
Oh yeah. Well, we I think I've made a new friend there. Actually, a very dear friend. We get on like a house on fire. I haven't heard from her for a while because she's been very busy. She's got an amazing sense of humor.
Yeah.
She is very, very, very bright and very practical. I think we work very well together. I hope to see her on my next visit because she's in the Cape. And we need to go to Hermanus and actually check what's going on there, also with our property. I hope to see her. From what I understand, when I report back to Narina, I report back to you and I report to Narina because she's actually in charge of this area.
Absolutely.
She's in charge of Europe.
Yeah.
So when I write to people, I copy you and I copy Narina.
Right.
And I think she has also seen that there is an abuse of the system, if I may call it that, where people want us to do the legwork for them or ask questions that or ask for favors or services that we simply cannot render. We get on very well. We see eye to eye. I think we've got the same standards that we work to. I really look forward to meeting her and see how we can bring this further. There is a lot we could do. For example, if she and I could, whoever, could have a weekly feedback session, like a news section.
A video.
Where we can, or basically
I would love you to do that. I'd love you to do that, and we could put it up on the channel.
And tell people, guys, this is what we've run into. Don't make that mistake.
Yeah.
How to go about it. For example, we saw there is an American lawyer who made an awful lot of sense. And there are things on the go there, and I believe that somebody was granted refugee status there, which is great. We are not that far yet here. One of the biggest problems is that you ask me what we run into. What we run into and what I can't get across is that in Europe, we have a huge problem with economic migration.
Right.
They are not refugees. They may have come from war-torn areas, but the moment they entered a country where there was no war, that is where they were refugees.
Yeah.
The moment they move from those countries to Germany, to Holland, to Denmark, Sweden, wherever, Austria, they move there as economic migrants. When they land in Italy, coming from a country which is not at war, where they're not threatened, they're not going into Italy or Greece or Spain as refugees. They're going there as economic migrants who want to bypass the visa regulations.
Right.
If you want to immigrate to a country where you think you can do better, you need to put in an application and give them a reason to accept you. Skills, money, whatever it is. Ancestry, you have to give the authorities a choice and say, guys, we say yes or we say no.
Right.
As a true refugee, things are different. If from Syria, you went into Italy, from a war-torn country into Italy, you would be a refugee in Italy.
Just
if
on
you go
that point,
to Turkey, you're not.
Just on that point, Philippe,
Yeah.
do you think that there's a genocide happening now in South Africa? I know it's a very controversial question, and I believe there is, and genocide against white people. What are your views on that?
I'm guided here. Well, if I may make the point that I was trying to make, Britain is leaving the EU because one of the main points is they want to control their own borders. They don't want to be flooded with economic migrants,
right,
who are told to get into the country by Brussels.
Yeah.
We are forced to accept from Brussels. They are not refugees. They're not the economic migrants.
Right.
So we are not there yet. And if you want to come here as an economic migrant, you have to convince the authorities that they need you and that they should let you in. You can't just crash the border, beat up a few border guards and police and block the railway sections and do as you please and attack locals and tell them that they're going and need to wear headscarves and stuff. It doesn't work. And it's the reason why Britain doesn't want it anymore. And that they need to understand very clearly. Now, I'm guided by, I think, Ernst Roots. I'm actually an admirer of Mr. Roots. I hold him in very high regard. He discussed genocide, and he basically told us that the number of people and the reasons and how and what do not map to the internationally accepted definition of genocide. What he did say is that the situation is very, very serious, and I accept that.
Yeah.
I don't know where the number of murders and the number of farm murders, where that threshold is where it becomes genocide, or where it becomes the farm murders now become compliant with the definition of genocide.
Right.
Remember that here they look at the legal definition to qualify people to enter on account of genocide. I don't know if we're there now. I trust Ernst's explanation for it. What do I think personally? I've been in the thick of it and seen firsthand what happened in the townships, in our immediate area, in the police reserve, and what I've seen was not pretty. It was bloody horrible. But I've seen a lot of torture of black on black, murder of black on black. Yeah. So if that would then be a genocidal situation, perhaps yes. We had to go into Deep Sloot to feed people out. It was actually part of the Erasmia precinct, a different precinct from my own. My own precinct started across the road. To assist the Erasmia police to extract people who were threatened with death, because the ANC was going against the IFP and Kata Freedom Party. And we had to extract those families and bring them to safety, and then there would be a retaliation, and we had to get the ANC guys out that were threatened with death. We had to accompany ambulances, fire brigade people, because they would be attacked, raped, and the cars would be stripped. And that was black on black. Wow. So we've seen that aspect, and in my area, the attempted murder or the outright murder of people who were shot through windows when they slept, the employees of people on small holdings, was rife as well. It was not only the whites that were attacked, blacks were as well.
Yeah.
Now, what is happening with the threats of we are going to kill whites, but not just yet. Do you need to wait for it to happen, for it to qualify? The opposition leader has made a blanket statement and said we're going to kill whites, and we're going to drive a lot into the sea, and we're going to take what they have. And other guys have also said we're going to kill you, and we're going to kill 5 of you. We're going to kill your cats and your dogs and your budgies or whatever. Do you need to wait for this to happen? For it to be, because those threats are genocidal.
Yeah.
They basically deal with a race, they deal with a population group.
Yeah.
And there is not a matter of we're going to kill 5,000 or 4,000 or 100 or 1,000,000. It is a blanket statement.
Yeah.
And that is genocide.
Yeah.
That implies that you're going to kill as many people as you possibly can of a race group.
Yeah.
And that is genocide. But it is at threat level. I am not competent, and that's where I trust Mr. Ruth's opinion on it. I'm guided by him there. That unless things start happening and give effect on that scale, as expressed publicly, I personally would say the moment the threat is made, and you start killing people on a fairly large scale, that is giving effect, because you kill people one by one. You can only kill them once.
Yeah.
It is not a matter of we kill you once or twice, and then the 4th time you can call it a death by genocide motivation.
Yeah.
Yeah. It is how do you start a journey one step at a time?
Right.
That first step is the beginning of your journey. My view is that if you make a general statement, like Zuma, we're going to bring me my machine gun, kill the whites. He doesn't say kill 5 whites. He doesn't say kill the Bothas or kill the Dutoits. He says kill the whites.
Yeah.
One settler, one bullet. That is a general statement.
Yeah.
And it is a call to arms. And I don't care if he says that it is a cultural manifestation. That is a call to arms.
Yeah.
And that is an intent to kill whites and the exhortation to kill a population group.
No.
And that is genocide.
Okay.
Now, at what point you can say that the effect that has been given to that threat and that exhortation is now, in fact, genocidal?
Right.
I don't know. In my view, the very fact that you call to arms to annihilate the population group, and you start the process by killing 1 at a time,
right,
and 10 at a time, and 18,000 or 20,000 in a year, and you start with your torture sessions.
Yeah.
That is giving effect to your threat.
Yeah. Now,
and
Philippe,
I would say,
Philippe,
in for a penny, in for a pound. Yeah, post hoc ergo propter hoc. What comes after something is part of it.
if one of those South Africans who's got out of South Africa is Sue, who's there with you. Is she able to come on?
Actually, I'll ask her, if you give me a minute, I'll ask her. She is actually busy with her CV with my wife. Hold on.
Okay.
Let me ask her. Give me a minute.
Sure. Okay, folk, we're going to be hopefully getting Sue on the live stream in a second. She has just travelled to South Africa, to the UK or Scotland. She has migrated out of South Africa. So we're going to ask her a few questions about how she's finding it in Scotland.
Sit in my chair. Scott, this is Sue.
Hi, Sue. Good to meet you.
Oh, you too, Scott. Where are you from?
I'm in Australia.
Oh, you're in Australia.
In
okay.
Brisbane,
Right.
Australia. Yeah. Now,
Okay, good.
what prompted you to leave South Africa? I know you've got a young daughter, haven't you?
Yes, I have, correct.
Yeah.
Okay, in order of priority, it was the following. It was financially driven first and foremostly for me. I'm a single parent. My partner passed away 3.5 years ago. We were not provided for, we were not left financially provided for, so I sort of find myself in dire straits. In terms of income, my age is 56, my skin color is white, so that excludes me from a lot of the higher income earning opportunities at this particular point in my life.
Right.
So, primarily it was financial. Secondly, it was educational. The standard and quality of our education system, normal public education system, has deteriorated dramatically. 30% is now the required pass rate in
That's
public
crazy.
schools. I know, it's absolutely crazy. Okay, we were fortunate enough in the last 9 months of last year to get a bursary for my little girl to attend a private school, an English-speaking private school. And I'm sorry, but I don't know who our audience is, so I hope I'm not going to upset anybody, but she had no opportunity to interact with children of her own culture. So she was the only European child in her class, and
Wow.
we are not racist by nature, not at all. One-to-one individuals, we interact very well, but she was basically precluded from forming friendships with her own culture. For as long as she went to an English-speaking primary school. I did try the Afrikaans-speaking primary school, and it didn't work. Socially, she started to make friends, and she was able to interact with other little girls of her own age and her own culture. But I'm afraid education was a problem in the Afrikaans medium. So, and then thirdly, it was political. Okay, so firstly financial, secondly educational, thirdly political. The reason that political was not top of my agenda was because my personal circumstances, financial and educational, outweighed the political. I lived in a very rural area, Limpopo province, which is the furthermost northern province in South Africa, in a little town of Palabora, which is directly alongside the Kruger National Park. A beautiful town in years gone by. I brought up 2 elder children in the same town. As I said, a lovely town to bring young children up in.
Yeah.
I've lost my point. I can't remember what I was going to say.
Why you left?
Why I left.
Politically, you were at the political level.
Yes, okay. What
Politics,
I was actually going to say regarding Palabora is that crime did happen in the town. I was never personally directly affected by any crime or any attacks or anything like that. Crime did happen in the town, but given the fact that we were a small sort of rural location, we were also insulated to a certain extent from, the crime and attacks that are happening. If you live on a small holding or if you live on any farmland, your risk of attack is higher no matter where you are in the country. Crime's there, petty crime and more serious crime, it's all there. I mean, I do know of quite serious attacks against elderly people and women that have been raped in the town, in the suburb. I was personally never directly affected by it, but I was always continuously aware of the need to make sure that, I took the necessary precautions, safety precautions when moving around at night, and very alert to the fact that when I arrived home at my driveway, and unfortunately I didn't have a motorised gate, I had to get out and open my gate. I would very carefully check the area first. I would make sure the doors were locked, the gate was locked, the sliding gate was locked to the entrance to the property. So I'd take all of those precautions. I couldn't leave my door open at night time to have fresh air coming in. All those precautions were taken, and as I say, just to summarize, my major drivers for leaving were primarily financial, then educational, and then political. However, I've left behind family over there. I've left behind 2 adult children, and I've got a grandson over there. And from a political perspective, I really do wish that I could, that I can convince them at some point in the future to leave the country. Because the awareness of our political instability, our economic instability, is very high, and it's not the ideal place to be living. It's not the ideal place to bring up children at this particular point in time, especially, European children. And my biggest concern for the country is that the population growth far exceeds the economic growth of the country. So The way I look at it, realistically, not negatively, realistically, I don't see that there's going to be much of an opportunity to turn South Africa around in the nearby future. The population growth is just, it's uncontrolled. It's rampant, and I think economically we're not on a growth track.
And just on that,
at the moment we're stagnant, if not negative.
Yeah, just on that point, it must be so lovely to be able to sleep without fear now that you're in Scotland.
I've been here a week, and my first 6 nights were spent in a hotel.
Yeah.
And last night I stayed over with Gitta and Philip. So it's my first experience of being in a small town, Bankery. Lovely to be able to look over the views, the scenic views, and know that you are safe. I think we must always be aware the world is just in such a state today that I think we all need to have an awareness of not relaxing our guard too much, but certainly we don't have to have our guard up to the same extent that we have our guard up in South Africa at this point in time. Well, yes, lovely. Gitta and Philip took me out today, and this place is absolutely stunning. It's wonderful.
Yeah, fantastic. Well, you're in great hands. I mean, Philippe and his wife
are
doing an amazing job. Yeah. What are your plans now that you're in a new country?
The reason for the first 6 nights stay being in a hotel was that I was busy doing a course. I've got the second part of the same course coming up on the 11th to the 15th of March. This week is free. Next week I have got a part-time job lined up. And after I finish the second part of my course, the intention is to go full out and look for a permanent job. But I need to find a stable job very quickly so that I can settle down and bring my 11-year-old daughter over to Scotland. So the idea is I bought a one-way ticket, and the objective is to be productive, become a productive part of society. Not to sit and rest on my laurels or anything like that. I want to get involved. I need to start earning. I need to start living life as a contributing citizen. I am a dual citizen of both countries, South Africa and the UK. I was born in England a long time ago. Right. Emigrated to South Africa with my parents when I was 7, and I've been there for 49 years. So the idea is to settle down, and at the moment it's a 10-year plan. The 10-year plan being for me to get into being productive in society and earning income, and pay my taxes and contribute to NI, and bring up my daughter, give her the opportunity of a better quality of education and a higher education opportunity as well at one of the many universities in Scotland that are so fabulous. Yeah. So that's the idea. It's just to live life, and just have a happy, just be happy in life. Yeah. Just to have a happy, settled contentment. That's basically the objective.
Now, there are well over 100 people in the live chat at the moment listening to you, and most of them are from South Africa. What message do you have for people in South Africa now that you've actually done the jump to another country? You've gone through the process. Is there something you want to talk to them about while they're here on the live stream?
Where are the audience? Where's the majority of the audience situated? Are they still in South Africa?
Yes,
already left.
No, mainly in South Africa.
Mainly in South Africa.
Yeah.
I would say the bottom line is it depends on your why. Okay, every individual's why is going to be different. Every individual's motivation and drive is going to be different. So you need to analyze your why. What's your purpose? There's a number of things that come into play for me. I didn't have to face the obstacle of looking at the tier 2 visa. Here in the UK, I was automatically eligible to work in the UK because of my British passport. So I was entitled to come back and work as a citizen. Depends on your why. If it's your children's concern, if that's your primary motivating factor, then I would say you need to do it. Because if you're already in your 30s, 40s, 50s, and you have young children, that you want to bring up and afford the opportunity of a good education and a good future, I mentioned earlier that the growth population exceeds the economic development of the country. And for that reason, I think, especially if you are European of color, skin color, I think our children's future prospects are severely handicapped in South Africa. Unless you have parents that are entrepreneurial and can guide their children in that direction, you would be doing your children a favor if you could leave the country. But then again, how you're going to leave the country is going to depend on whether you have access to an EU or a British passport, or even, a passport from another country. And then, of course, I think there's one thing that I've observed from the support groups that I have been involved in, is that those people that are still secure income earners in South Africa have got less of a reason, or less of a crisis reason, to leave the country, because they can still buy safety up to a point. They can still buy safety. And what I've observed is that those that are still earning well and living well in the country are those that are going to be the least likely to force themselves into a position of change in the first instance. And secondly, if they do force themselves into a position of making a change, I think they are the ones that are going to have the fallback, or going to be inclined to fall back to wanting to going back to South Africa, because life was still comfortable for them. For me, life became really uncomfortable. I couldn't make ends meet. I had a child to bring up. Her school fees were essentially coming out of her inheritance money, and I had the opportunity to move because of my British passport. Having said that, I initially did not have the money to move. So that's another challenge that some people might face. They might not have the funds to be able to move. So then you have to get creative. You have to look for legal creative ways as to how you can come up with those funds to move. So that might involve selling your car. It might involve selling your home. It might involve selling your furniture. In my instance, I sold furniture and I sold other household contents, small things, and I raised almost 30,000 rand. I was able to tap into a pension. I took early pension on a policy that I've been paying 32 Rand a month on since the age of 18. And in the process of doing inquiries, I found out that the capital, or the maturity value of my pension was less than the threshold, and I was entitled to then withdraw the whole pension. That was after initially being given the wrong advice that I would only be able to take a third, and that the other 2/3 would be paid as a monthly income into my South African bank account. So that advice was wrong advice, and somebody else actually went and gave me the correct information and said that you are below the threshold, which was something like 247 or 274,000 Rand, and due to that, I'd already reached the age where I could request early retirement of that policy, and I took the whole lot.
Yeah.
So yes, I have used all of my future pension savings in South Africa that would have become available from South Africa. But let's face it, you can live on 220,000 Rand for the rest of your life anyway.
Yeah.
I can't. So to me, that cash in my hand was far more valuable to get me out of the country, to allow me to start a new future and a new life in a country where it's first world, there are more citizen benefits, etc., etc. Does that help?
Absolutely, thank you. And look, there's a lot of people in the side chat here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to address the side chat. If Philip could just come and join you, perhaps as well, because what will happen is that people will ask questions and of you, and if I'll read out the questions they ask, and okay, just go to the side chat, guys. Are there questions you would like to ask Sue or Philippe? Just go ahead. It takes a few seconds for these questions to come through, but quite a few people here are saying lots of luck, Sue.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
She is one hell of a woman, and I'm very proud to be able to help her. And at the moment, she's part of our family.
And I'm very
she's
grateful
very, very
for that.
welcome.
I'm very grateful for that. These two have adopted me like one of their own, and they have both been marvelous. They really have.
Oh, that's great.
And that's support that you can look to. anybody that's looking to make the move to another country, just link yourself up with people that have already done this, because when people have already done it, they are genuinely open to helping others to do it.
Yeah.
So don't overlook that as an opportunity, as a support structure opportunity.
Now, Sophia says, I'm in the UK and would love to get in touch with both of you. So what I'll do is I'll just give Sophia my email address, and if you want to contact her, feel free to, but it's up to you. I'll just throw my email into the
You
side
can
chat.
forward it to my email. You could forward it to my email.
Yes, exactly.
With your questions.
Yeah.
Where is Sophie? Where in the country? Where in the UK is Sophie at the moment?
Where in the UK are you, Sophia? Respond to that. Nikki says, Sue, well done, you brave woman.
Thank you very much, Nikki.
And Nigel says, Sue, what kind of work are you experienced in?
A variety of different things. Just a quick rundown. Many years ago, I qualified as a draftswoman. I actually did a 3-year apprenticeship. From there, I moved into property management with a local mining house in Palabora, and they put me through a development program. So I actually did a development program with Anglo American, and I managed that property portfolio, the mining company's property portfolio, for 10 years. From there, I went into private property. I did property sales.
Right.
After that, I bought a cell phone dealership, which was one of the biggest mistakes of my life. But I bought a cell phone dealership. I had that for 4.5 years. And I loved it, but we moved. I loved it and hated it. It was a tug of war going on. And then we moved out of Palabora. We moved to Polokwane. My partner got a position in Polokwane, so we moved and I sold the business. And then I got back into marketing. I went into marketing. I did specification marketing for the construction building industry. We actually marketed products and got leads to professionals in the construction industry. And then I became a Herbalife distributor as well, Herbalife member. And that membership, it was a 7-year. It still is a relationship with Herbalife, but to a lot more of it's a lower priority in my life right now.
Right.
But network marketing really grows you as an individual. I think there are things that I am, experienced enough, and I've grown enough through that network marketing experience to take on challenges now that I would never have dreamed of taking on in the past.
Right.
So network marketing exposed me to a lot. It exposed me to people leadership, my people skills, I believe, and I'm not boastful, but I believe I've got very good people skills.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a wellness club. So I was a leader in Herbalife. I reached the leadership levels, experienced 3 international holidays as a result of the levels that I achieved in Herbalife. And then after my partner died, I really just had my back against a wall, because his death left a gap of between 12 and 14,000 Rand a month.
Wow.
And I just wasn't able, through my network marketing, which I was doing full time at that stage, I actually wasn't able to close the financial gap quickly enough. And having become, a now single parent, I needed to have a stable income. I needed stable income to at least pay the bills. And then my top-up income would have come from network marketing. So various things worked and did not work. And I went back into engineering. I actually worked for a small company, it was a South African established company in 1921. I worked for Knight Peasold Consulting in a support capacity, project support and marketing coordination.
Right.
And I was with them for 18 months and enjoyed it, but engineering is not my primary passion in life, I'm afraid.
No, we've got some more questions.
I'm one of those people. I think I'm one of those people that if I put my mind to something, I can make a success of it anyway. So.
Flexibility is absolutely paramount. It is the beginning and the end of success.
Yeah, and adaptability. Yeah.
Now, Jaco van der Merwe says, Sue, I live near Palabora. and you won't believe how that place is going to ruin.
Oh, I hear you. Where do you live? Where does Jaco live if he lives near Palabora?
Jaco, where do you live near Palabora? I'll just another question from Glenn. Glenn said, Sue, what was the overall cost of your move to the UK? Would it be similar for Australia? Now, obviously, I'm pretty sure you don't know all the answers there, but can you give it like a ballpark?
Who was it that asked that question?
Glenn.
Glenn.
Yeah.
Glenn, I think the answer to that is that if I take my own set of circumstances, I looked at New Zealand. I actually had a holiday in New Zealand with a view to exploring the country, or exploring the possibility of going there in 2016, which would have been a year and a half before the cut-off age limit of 55.
Right.
I think the fact that I'm a British passport holder, British citizen, just made it so much easier and so much cost-effective for me to come back here. Basically, it was the cost of a flight.
Right.
And amongst a few other things, but yeah, cost of a flight, and then of course I decided to do a course, so I paid for that as well. So it was the cost of the flight, landing. I mean, I took a rental car yesterday, which was horrendously expensive, but it's easier for me to get around that way than with public transport. Had I chosen any other country, had I chosen Canada, Australia, New Zealand, I would have had to go the visa route. Firstly, I would have had to find work. I would have had to find work that I would suitably or would have matched that's already on the skills list.
Yeah.
So that would have been a challenge in the first instance, because I don't have any specific professional qualifications that you would find on those skills shortages lists. But secondly, I would have had the cost of applying, doing all the visas, doing all the medicals, etc., etc. So if you are already a passport holder of another country, it just makes it so much easier to go back.
Yeah.
So for me, it was the cost of a one-way ticket, which was £6,500. But believe me, the costs don't stop there. I mean, we were in the middle of summer in Palabora or South Africa, coming to the middle of winter here, so there was clothing. There's all those sundry expenses that you're aware of, that it's going to cost you money, but you don't really know how much until you get here.
Right.
But yeah, it was definitely a lot more cost effective for me to come here than to consider going elsewhere.
Okay, cool. Now, Philippe, here's a question for you from Jaco van der Merwe. He says, are there companies willing to sponsor people for work in Scotland or the UK?
Yes, Jaco, there are. We had an inquiry, or I had an inquiry referred to me from a lady, and she is a pharmacist, and pharmacists are not on the short list, on the skills list. But she also told me that her husband is a welder, and high intensity welding, for example, is on that scarce skills list, scarce professions list. They are high intensity pipe welders, and those guys will be sponsored. They're on the list. They will be sponsored. There's a huge shortage of them. There are also guys who are looking for people in the offshore industry. We are the capital of the offshore industry in the oil business, Aberdeen, and a lot of the guys. In fact, it was too funny for words. We had breakfast in a very interesting location this morning. We took Sue to see the environment that we are in, and two people wanted to have a chair somewhere. The restaurant was full, and we said, "Come and sit with us, share our table." And both of them were South Africans.
Wow!
And
husband and wife.
Yeah, and he was in the offshore industry. He was an inspector on the oil rigs. So, and she is an engineer in engineering. So
she's a draftswoman.
Yeah, she's a draftswoman. So in mechanical engineering, and if you are prepared to take what comes and what is there, and you have those basic skills, they will sponsor you. We have been looking after a Sparky, an electrician, who was sponsored, and they brought his whole family out. We are now working on getting him permanent leave to remain. He's been here for a few years. And then a British citizenship. And this guy is a guy who went through the trades training, the old-fashioned classical electrician's trades training, apprenticeship training. And the guy has specialized skills in hoists, mechanical hoisting. He is actually the star of his company. They brought him out, they brought his family out, they've employed him for the last few years.
Right.
He does very, very well. So yes, they will bring you out. They need him. In fact, without him, that company would go one way.
Right.
He's that good. A lot of South Africans are very, very well trained, superb artisans. It's not only academics.
Right.
They are hardworking. They'll take anything. He lives here. His wife and his daughters live in Kent.
Right.
They separated. They didn't want to live in Scotland, so they lived in Kent, and he flies up and down to see them.
Right.
It's difficult, but he will do it. And yes, they will come out. They will sponsor you if you have a skill that they need.
Yeah, I think
Cool.
that's
Now,
that's the benchmark. You need to have a skill that there is a general lack of shortage of here in this country, in order to be sponsored.
okay, cool. Now,
They won't just
Brewer-
sponsor the average Joe.
You need to bring something to the table. Remember, Jaco, what I said about economic migrants. As long as you are not a typical refugee coming from a genocidal situation in South Africa to Britain as your first stop, then you're a refugee. You would be coming here at the moment as an economic migrant looking for a better way of life. And that means that you need to persuade the local guys that they need you, that you've got stuff that they need.
Okay.
You need to bring something to the table that they don't have.
Now,
So your skill set is not known to me, but yes, they will, and they will pull out all the stops to get you if you have to be the guy that they're looking for.
Boer and Brewer has asked, and Boer and Brewer is Dwayne. He's a fantastic fellow. He's actually working very closely in our team as well. He's helping Patrick. It's Dwayne. He says, loving life, will you ask Philippe, will you still visit South Africa given the current status? Is the carrot worth the risks, especially Hermanus? Do you know if your house is still standing?
Our house is still standing. What is happening in Hermanus is a very different story. We don't know what these people are going to do. They've been pulling through Hermanus. They've caused riots. They've destroyed stuff. They've now said that they will take over all the properties in Hermanus. It's theirs. All the businesses, the sea, and you know the story. So Hermanus, we're not too sure what is going on there. Our apartment in Umhloti is safe. It is there. We haven't written off South Africa. You must understand one thing. We have friends. We have patients. We have family. We have a country. And we are very fond of all of them. We are very committed to all of them. The fact that there are a bunch of thugs running around in politics and outside of it is another story. And yes, your heart says, let's take the chance. Your brain says you're better off not going back. But your heart says, do go back. And we do go back. We go back a couple of times a year. When we're there and we live with the stress of, and we hear the stories from family and friends, what has happened to them and others, you think, what on earth am I doing here? But you look at it as if South Africa is bigger than all of that. It's bigger than the misery that is being caused. And we are loyal to our family. We're loyal to our friends. We're loyal to the country. We believe that the country is raped. The country is not responsible for this mess. People are. And we will continue to love and be loyal to one of the greatest countries in the world. The problem is we don't particularly want to be loyal to the scum that ruin it. Does that explain it?
Okay, now
Hello?
let me
Yeah.
just see if Boer has put a response in. Oh, he said, "I'm so proud to have heard that response." That's from Boer.
Thank you, bro. And realize also this is what drives us to help South Africans in need,
Yeah.
and to make as with Sue, to make them our own.
Yeah.
She is in our home. We have shown her around. We've shown her, shared our life with her. We are going to do certain things to assist her a bit later. She is one of our own.
Yeah.
She is not a stranger. Neither are you. You are us. You are our own. We will look after you. We will help you.
Yeah.
We will protect you if we must. If we have to. We'll do anything for you. We will do anything to uplift South Africa if we only could. And put pressure on the scum to take a hike, and put pressure on the courts to take them to task and lock them up.
Yeah.
And restore the country to its rightful place. You guys are us. Realize that. We are not them and us. You are us. Does it help?
If I can add something to that, I absolutely love South Africa completely. I've lived there for the greater part of my life. I've been there for 49 years. I was forced into making this change, this decision to come over to England. If I hadn't been pushed into a corner, I would probably still be in South Africa. But I look at it like this. I have got an 11-year-old daughter. What happens in the next 10 years of her life is going to impact her future. So I can choose to stay in South Africa and carry on with circumstances the way they were. And, at the end of the day, she sits with a matric certificate that is of very little value elsewhere in the world. Or I could make the change to come over here. And that's why I mentioned earlier, I'm looking at this as a 10-year plan. The reason I'm looking at it as a 10-year plan is it's mentally more acceptable to say, okay, this is a 10-year plan rather than forever. Who knows what I'm going to do 10 years from now? I really don't know. I might go back, but at least I know that I have made a difference in the years that count for my child's future.
That's fantastic. Now I've got several more questions for you. Midnight has asked Philippe, I understand that Ireland accept only a South African passport to enter for a visit. Do you know if a visa is given on arrival?
I have no idea about Irish rules and regulations. I don't know. I can't help you. I don't know.
The little bit that I know about that is South Africans do not require a visa to go on holiday to Ireland, but do not start looking for work in Ireland. Don't do that. You're going to get yourself into big trouble. If you want to go to Ireland for work purposes, you basically need to have a job offer to be able to start working there. So either a holiday or you need to find a visa to go there, a work visa. That's the little bit that I know about Ireland.
What I can say is, I think I sent it to you, Scott, but it might be helpful to your inquirer.
Yeah.
I looked at I had a question regarding refugee status. And refugee status in Ireland was refused by a court, in the Republic of Ireland I'm talking about. And that was taken on appeal. And that particular person had been in Ireland for 5 years. And the case is known by the initials of the appellant, which was A.N., A for Alpha, N for November. And the Irish Court of Appeals, the High Court, actually refused the motivation of refugee status to get a residence permit there.
Right.
And that is fairly recent. Yeah. If that helps, they didn't accept the refugee story, and the appeal failed.
Right.
That was the AN case. Yeah. I think I sent it through to you, my reply to that particular inquiry at the time.
Now,
if If I can mention, can I say something quickly?
Yeah.
If there are any parents out there that really physically find themselves in a place where they can't leave South Africa and they have children who they want to set up a potentially better future for, my recommendation would be as follows. I would say have a look at the skills shortage list of the countries that you've got in mind, be that Australia, New Zealand, Canada, or even the UK. Identify what the skill shortages are, and then point your children in the direction of qualifying themselves in something on their skill shortages lists.
Yeah.
But do so with an educational institution whose diploma or degree is going to be recognized internationally.
Right.
That's if there are any parents out there that want to set up a future for their children and are presently not in a position to leave the country.
That's great advice. Now, Marsha has asked, what if my great-great-grandparents are from Ireland? I think she's asking, can she get a passport?
Some countries that I'm aware of accept ancestry going way back. Ireland, I'm not sure where that stops, but for example, Portugal, I think, goes back way back. But the best thing is to actually talk to the Irish High Commission and ask or Google it. When I checked on the refugee status thing, I Googled it and I came up with that court case, that decision.
Yeah.
It's all available, guys. But what I said in the beginning, Scott, is they actually need to do some homework themselves.
Yeah.
This is so easy to establish.
Yeah.
Get on your computer, place the question, and your answers will be there.
Right.
I can add to that. There's a very, very fantastic support group on Facebook for those that are on social media. There's a fantastic support group. I think it's called something like South Africans Wanting to Live in Ireland or Living in Ireland or something like that. And in the files section, there is a very comprehensive, over 100-page document that has been compiled by somebody that's been through the immigration process. And he outlines everything. He takes you through everything, step by step, as to if this, then that, etc., etc. So I would recommend, alternatively, I would recommend that people sort of have themselves invited onto that group, or invite themselves onto the group, and once they're on the group, access the document, download it, and read it from cover to cover.
Excellent.
Marsha, did you hear that? She's here. She's busy in the side chat. You want to repeat the name of that Facebook page, Sue?
If you give me 2 seconds, I'll go and fetch my phone, and then I'll be able to give you the exact name. You talk to Philip in the meantime.
Okay. Right. Phil, while Sue's doing that, Scale Model has asked, I'm a single man, 40 years old, and good looking, with a little bit of money. Can I get help as well? He's a bit of a cheeky character.
What help? What help do you need if you've got money? No, look, guys, you need, as I explained to you, you are going to be an economic migrant. Understand that until the genocidal aspect kicks in all its nastiness. When that kicks in, the rules change. But up to then, I must go with Mr. Roots on that one. Up to then, you're an economic migrant. And in fact, people have really had enough. And this whole Brexit thing is about that. So the short answer to all of it with everybody who's watching is not what can Britain do for you, but what can you do for Britain?
Yeah.
And if what you can do for Britain is worth having, man, they will have you here in no time flat. There is no discrimination at all. They will help you. They will sort things out to get you established. But the first moves are yours and yours alone. And you've got to convince these people that they're better off with you than without you, until this genocidal story kicks in. I don't know what is going to happen then in Amnesty International or the UN Commission, High Commission for Refugees kicks in and tells people to accept refugees. in numbers. That's different, but that's not on hand now. That's not the yardstick you're going to be measured to. Scott, you've got the first one as a refugee in the States.
Yeah.
But it's there.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean that they get asylum. It means that they are there, that the Americans are willing to look at the application in more detail.
Exactly, yeah.
The asylum story is the end of that road. Yeah, that they are really genuinely accepted as refugees, given asylum, and they've got a new home. Also, be aware that once you've got asylum in a country, you can never go back to South Africa. That will be a condition. You cannot go back to South Africa as an asylum seeker who has been granted asylum. You cut yourself off forever. And that's harsh.
Yeah.
Yes, Scott?
Okay.
I've got the name of the group.
Marsha?
I can't remember.
Marsha, this is the name of the Facebook group?
The name of the group is South Africans Moving to Ireland. So you just invite yourself onto the group. You'll have to answer a couple of questions before they will accept you. And then in the files section, there is a version 14, South Africans Immigrating to Ireland, version 14 PDF. And it's written by Mark de Doualier. And all I ask is that I'm sharing this information. Please respect the content and respect the author of it. He's offered up his own free time and put a comprehensive document together to support other people wanting to go through the same process that he's already been through.
Right, fantastic. Now, Kevin has asked, Scott, which Professor Jansen was Philippe referring to?
I don't know his first name. He was actually, I think, at Potch. He was the caretaker chancellor, vice chancellor at a couple of universities. Prof. Jansen, Jansen, I think it is, with one S, Jansen, Prof. Jansen. It was a couple of years ago. He has actually left. He was in a couple of. He was working at a couple of universities. I think as caretaker chancellor or in something like that in that capacity. And I think that from memory, I think he is now at. He's in the States. He is in the US. So he'll need to investigate that further. But from memory, I think even Potch was one of the universities where he was for a while to sort things out.
Right. Now, Granny has asked, what about food engineers? Are they on the short list?
Food technologists?
No, food engineers. Or I guess that might be a food technologist.
What is a food engineer? I know a food technologist.
I'll just ask Granny.
As far as I know, that what list for the UK?
Or a skill list, I guess, a short list.
I don't believe so. But what he should do, this is what I said in the beginning of my interview with you.
Yeah, do their own research.
Get into the internet and actually look at scarce skills, scarce professions, and have a look. Have a look.
Yeah.
It takes you 10 seconds to get in there and check it.
There's the answer, Granny.
Which will help that woman who had a welder husband.
Yeah.
And if he is a high-intensity pipe welder, he is on that list, and he can bring her out. And then once she passes her registration here as a pharmacist, she can work as well.
Right. Now,
this is what I mean, guys. Do your basics. Do your basics.
Jaco van der Merwe has asked, Philippe, what is the minimum wage in Scotland?
For an adult?
Yeah, for an adult, yeah.
I think you basically, for an adult person, it is around £1,000. It's not a lot.
Right.
But with all the add-ons and stuff, it would run into probably about £1,200–1,300. But officially, it is less than that.
Presently, at the moment, the published hourly minimum wage rate is around about £8 an hour, and that applies throughout the UK. That's the published minimum rate.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure you're going to get places that are going to pay more and some that are going to pay less.
Very few pay that. Very, very few pay that for unskilled work.
So it's normally more.
Your skills shortage list can be found on www.gov.uk/guidance/immigration, and I can't see the rest on my phone. But yes, you know what? We're responsible to do our own homework and our own investigation, and at the end of the day, the decision is ours. Nobody else can make that decision for us. And if you just know where to look, just knowing where to look is very helpful. So I found a lot of support came from the Facebook groups that I plugged into.
Yeah.
A lot of useful information was shared on those platforms.
Well, I found these skills by simply going by Googling UK visas short skills, short skilled professions, and it comes up with a whole list of things, and it directs you. If you Google it,
I've just had a very, very interesting comment made in the side chat. This is for you, Sue. Johan, who I know well, he's someone who's got his own businesses, and he lives in South Africa. But he says, Scott, I will send you an email. I can help to get Sue work.
Oh, that's fabulous. Thank you very much. Thank you. Tell me, is that the Johan van der Merwe that we were talking about just now?
No, this is Johan Grab.
Okay.
Was that the chap you had a podcast with?
That's right, exactly, last week, yeah.
Yeah. That's great. He can actually send it care of, you can send it care of us and we forward it to Sue.
Well, Johan, if you just send me an email, and I will forward your email to Philippe, and he will make sure it gets to Sue.
Thank you very much, Johan. That's very kind of you.
Well done, mate. Well done. Thank you.
So we help each other, paying it forward.
You'll have to let us know how you go with that.
I will do so.
Cool.
I will do so.
Now,
guys, the key to success is that you actually help yourselves.
Yeah.
The key questions is what is a scarce skill? What is a scarce profession? If you Google visa scarce profession UK, the system will actually cough it up, because that's how I found it for people. You've got to, as Sue says as well, and as I've been saying, you've got to help yourself. You've got to do your homework. If you don't, you're the wrong person for immigration. There is no backstop for you here. You're it. You're it. And that is what you must understand. You're on your own when you come here. We can do certain things for you, but if you have the wrong mindset, those were my patients who actually returned to South Africa because they thought everything was going to be done for them, and they were totally disillusioned. It's not how it works.
Yeah.
You know, the guys that we met this afternoon, and in fact we went to another place where we had tea, where we took tea, and guess what? The bloody chef was a South African who's been here 12 years. And we had no idea. It was a total surprise.
I've heard
he is as happy as Larry, and he spoke to Sue and told her about his experiences, and they're willing to share. But he got in there, rolled up his sleeves, and got going.
I've heard that a food engineer is actually a chef.
Is it?
Well,
if he has a South African passport and no ancestry, what is going to happen now, because things have tightened, and the whole Brexit story puts it in a bit of a test. Basically, Scotland floats on tourism. It is a main driver, and they're hopelessly understaffed. So when they don't need Europeans anymore to take jobs, EU guys, European Union guys, visas, they can then open up their scarce skills for whoever they need, carers for the elderly, carers for the sick, people to work in hotels, people to work as chefs. There's a whole lot of jobs that can then open up because they can determine themselves who comes in and who they need and on what type of visa. At the moment, things are in flux. Hang in there. This scenario will change.
Chefs is presently on the skill shortage list, by the way. There's a shortage of chefs.
There is a skill shortage. Wow.
Yeah, a skill shortage. Chefs is on the skill shortage list.
There you go, Granny.
There you go. Yeah. If I can give a word of advice, if there are any other single parents out there like me, I have left my young daughter behind in South Africa with my 2 adult children. And the reason for that is I didn't want to drag her over here to the uncertainty, that I'm presently facing. I mean, presently, let's put it in a nutshell, I'm jobless and homeless right now. Okay, so I couldn't bring my child over to those circumstances. So I left her behind. She's continuing with her education. Once I've found a job that I can settle into, which hopefully will be the first job, but as soon as I'm in a job that is stable, she's coming over and she will be plugged into the school and life system here in Scotland.
We had an inquiry from someone who wanted to bring her daughter and her father out, and I asked her if she actually realized what she was going to have to do here, hunting around for an apartment, a job, settling in, and what on God's green earth is she going to do with a daughter trailing her? Sue has the right idea. And she said, well, she doesn't want to leave her daughter with her father in South Africa. Guys, be reasonable. And she wanted to work in the hospitality industry. And her job, that she was not a chef, but she was going to be employed as a housekeeper or in reception. That is not on the list. But these things change all the time because they cannot get people. It is hopelessly understaffed. So a lot of people who are not on that shortlist may well come on that shortlist because they've got to keep the country running. And Sue is right, that job is on the shortlist, but I haven't got it in front of me.
That's great news. Okay. Jaco has written, hope my profession in the hardware buildware industry will be in the skills list, I think he means, for the UK stroke Scotland.
Is he selling hardware?
Do you build or do you sell, Jaco?
Sorry?
I've just asked Jaco whether he builds or sells hardware.
Sales are not on the short list.
Yeah, so I can everybody can sell.
Guys, Google it, get there.
Yeah,
which site are you looking?
Probably best if you just Google that.
Yeah, I'm on www.gov.uk and just search around that site and you'll pretty much find everything that you need to
I'll
find.
just put that in the side chat here. www.gov.uk. So do your own research.
We've also had inquiries from people with very odd qualifications from private institutions that are not diploma degree awarding institutions. There were spelling errors on the diplomas. The things actually look. And they call themselves all sorts of things that they shouldn't be calling themselves.
Yeah.
Guys, it won't cut it.
Yeah.
It really will not cut it. Don't do this.
And you just screw up the future.
What Sue told you before is right on the money. Get a relevant.
Oh, we've lost the audio. Let me just tell him. Hi, Philippe. Philippe, we've lost audio. I can't. I've lost about the last 30 seconds of what you're saying. We have no audio coming through from you. Yeah, I can't hear you. Let's just see what's happening here. I'm just trying to get the audio back, guys. What I might do is reconnect. Philippe, I'll reconnect with you guys, okay? So I'll call you back. I think he might just be looking at his issues. Okay, I'll just wait for him to call me. Gotta love the internet, haven't you? While we're trying to reconnect, are there any other questions people would like to ask? I hope you all enjoyed the live stream tonight. I know it looks like he might have problems on his side, but thank you for joining us. And yeah, I know, Sophia. That's why I've got moderators, you know, to look after that. I'm sorry about that. All right, it looks like we're not going to get Philippe back because he might have lost his internet. Thank God we had him for as long as we did. I think we covered most of the questions. Is there anything else you would like to raise in the live stream before I close off the channel? Anyone wants to contact me by email, I'll just put my email down here, just feel free to send me an email, okay? There you go. Oh, here we go. I think we got Philip back. Hi, Philip.
Hi, Scott. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Yes, yes, you're back. Okay, Philip is back.
We had problems with that, and it went down again for a while. Basically what we were trying to tell you was that it actually says poor connection again. They must understand that they're on their own here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah. Yep.
The big thing is that the support structure that they knew in South Africa, family, friends, colleagues, is gone. It's over. There is none of it until you build it and rebuild it. And they must understand that they're on their own. Any help that they get is a bonus. But immigration is for people who are completely self-sufficient. It is not for people who need help. And a lot of my patients who failed and actually went back and were depressed thought that they would be helped and assisted, and they weren't. The prime thing is look after yourself. And then you might pick up help along the way. But count on yourself and count on your wife, count on your partner.
Yeah.
There is nothing else here.
Yeah.
Any help that comes your way is a bonus.
For families and couples, it makes very good sense for one partner to stay behind temporarily while the other one sets up a new life in a new country, which is pretty much what I did with the help of my adult children instead of obviously with a partner. So I just want to reinforce what Philippe is saying. Yes, it's up to us, but you can make it easier on yourself if you are prepared to, for a temporary period of time, let one stay behind and the other one start establishing a new life. It does make it easier to do it that way.
And the cost. These other people that you take along with you are not productive. They just cost money. We've had inquiries of people who wanted to bring dogs with them. And you think, you can't get properties to rent here if you've got pets. Yeah, it's rare that they allow animals. You make your chances so much poorer. Settle in, get your own home, bring your animals out if you need to. But your animals are your last priority. They're not a priority at all. If you cannot get somewhere to stay for you and your family because of pets, that's it. You need money to pay a very serious deposit. You have no credit rating. You've got no references from landlords. And you're competing for very scarce rental property. What do you think your chances are? You may need to pay a number of months' rental as a deposit. You know, get something that is small, that is compact, that is cheap, because you're going to spend a lot of money. Don't. If you're going to need something to start with the 3-4 bedrooms, what do you think you're going to be paying, and for what? You need to get established.
Yeah.
These are priorities, and the guys need to be practical about this. Like Sue, she's out here, she rolled up her sleeves. We can help her as best we can, but ultimately, this process of trying to get a job, settling in, securing a place to stay, securing transport, furnishing, equipping, it is expensive. Don't drag on more consumers than you have to.
Right. Now,
you hear me, Scott?
Yeah, I can hear you. Yeah. Now, Jaco van der Merwe has asked, Philippe, how much money is required for the first 3 months to get settled? And is accommodation expensive?
How long is a piece of string?
Exactly.
How long is a piece of string? It's totally up to you. You know, you could go from backpacker accommodation to hotel accommodation. It depends on how quickly you find a job.
To do what? To go job hunting across the UK, or to stay in one place and talk to employers? If you need to travel across the UK, that is very expensive. And it is time consuming, and you're going to have to be in hotels. You know, come here if you need to explore and you want to do it from scratch without having any starting point. with a good couple of £1,000 and you'll spend it.
Yeah.
Do your homework and your preparation from South Africa, then come here and set things up with a purpose. Don't start your priorities and your exploration here. You're going to run out of money so fast. It is the wrong way.
It is very difficult. I think unless you are on the skill shortages list, it's very difficult to obtain a job from South Africa. I tried. I submitted I submitted my CV for numerous job applications, and none of them, I didn't even get an inquiry. Having said that, I was determined to at least try. I was determined to put all effort into all channels and see what came back to me. And so let me just explain to you what happened on Friday. As I said to you, I was doing this course. And on Thursday evening, we went out on social, the group of us, there were 25 of us on the course. And the only other woman that was on the course with me, she said, she's overloaded. She actually needs help, but the people that she works for can't afford it. So I said to her, listen, Melanie, I said, I'd really just like to plant a seed. I said, you need help. I need some experience in what is now for me a relatively new industry. I need to get some experience, and I just need to stop the drain of funds out of my South African bank account. So I'm literally prepared to do anything you require me to do just for a roof over my head and a plate of food. So we came up with it was a proposal that I put forward that was mutually beneficial. It was a win-win situation for both of us. She's getting help, and I'm getting helped. And suffice to say that she emailed her committee, and the committee wrote back and said, yeah, we're perfectly willing to go with the suggestion that you're putting forward. And I have got myself 2 weeks of part-time work, starting not tomorrow, Monday next week. I've got myself 2 weeks of part-time work, which helped me to fill the gap up to the point of me doing the second part of my course. So little things like that. It's being observant, listening out to what opportunities might potentially be out there. Don't be ashamed to lower your standards, and if necessary, go and pack shelves at Tesco's. If that's what you've got to do to make ends meet while you are, obviously you've got to get to the country. If it's difficult for you to apply for work from South Africa, get into the country and start doing whatever you have to do, even if it's packing shelves at Tesco's. Do it until whatever you need or whatever is better that you're looking for comes your way. Just be prepared to do what it takes. Be prepared to roll up your sleeves and get stuck in. Don't expect it to land in your lap. Be proactive. Do all of the right things. Put your jobs, your CV out there. Speak to people. Start networking. Build a network. And what you put in is what you will get back.
And invest in yourself. Don't expect people here to invest in you. You invest in yourself and you bring your investment here. I mean, Sue, what do you think of our practice that you see?
It's absolutely phenomenal, guys. I tell you what, I'm very into natural health and natural healing and homeopathy and that type of thing. And I'm just absolutely blown away by what Philippe has got. What Philippe has got here in his practice. They are amazing people. These people that I'm privileged enough to spend some limited time with. As I said, they've taken me under their wing. They've really been supportive. But I tell you, they are amazing people. Very knowledgeable. Philippe is a very, very well-educated, highly educated man that's got years and years and years of experience and stories to tell and share. And I just absolutely love listening to what it is that he's got to share.
Invest in yourself. Bring your money here. If necessary, set up your own business. Whatever it is, invest in yourself. Don't wait necessarily for jobs to come up. In Sue's case, she's turned the page in her career. And she will be employed with what she's got. But there is nothing stopping you from setting up your own business. Nothing. Invest in yourself. Bring what money you have here. Make it work for you.
I have to pick up on a point that Sue made just a moment ago, and that is the phenomenal people that we've actually got working behind the scenes through this channel. I mean, Philippe is definitely one of them. Dwayne, Johan, I mean, there's so many. Darby, who's here on the side chat. I mean, there are so many people who are doing so many wonderful things, and it's such a pleasure to just be the gateway to help this happen. Sorry.
It's our pleasure too.
Yeah.
Look what Sue added to the program that I couldn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all in it together, guys. We all have a problem with people who are running South Africa and make our lives there a misery. Not one of us is against the country. We are against those people who are damaging the country and threatening to damage us.
Yeah.
And we will help those who need it where we can. But we can't do everything for you. We can't be everything to everybody.
Yeah.
We can be a little bit to some.
If I can add another practical point, very practical point, is a police clearance certificate is invaluable to bring with you, because even though you might not have an expectation of getting involved in jobs with old people or young people, the fact is that there are certain jobs in this country that you cannot do if you do not have police clearance or cannot produce a police clearance certificate. So it's a very valuable tool to bring with you to make sure that you've got it in your bundle of documentation. Make sure that you've got your police clearance certificate. That costs you something like 90 Rand. 114 Rand, which you obtain via the police station, and it takes probably 2 months to acquire it. So if you're heading in this direction shortly, make sure that you get a police clearance certificate.
No.
Make sure also that your driver's license is valid and up to date.
Now, Boer and Brewer has written, I have a question for Sue, please. Are her adult children planning on staying in South Africa or migrating as well?
All three of my children, I was the one that was born in the UK. So by descent, all three of my children are entitled to British passports and British citizenship, and all three of them have got it. My two elder children have both let their passports lapse, so they're in process of renewing it. My son is married to a young woman whose father lives in New Zealand, and they have looked at, the New Zealand option. My son, however, is presently employed in Palabora, and he's not uncomfortable with life. He's still financially well off, or doing well enough financially. There's no real reason for him to rock his boat right now. But there will come a time where, due to the industry that he's in, that the squeeze is going to be put on, and I hope that it doesn't happen, but I foresee that at some stage in the future the squeeze will happen, and he probably will then, need to exercise his options or look at his options to leave the country. And he's not on any skill shortages list that applies to New Zealand. His wife might be. She's got a teaching diploma. But otherwise, there's a backdoor for him to come to the UK. My daughter, very possibly, she's already talking along the lines of she wants to come and spend some time here. She needs to spread her wings. She's a young woman of 27. She's never really spread her wings. We've never financially had the income for her to invest in education that would give her that freedom to move abroad. So she's very keen to come over. My son, a little bit more reluctant. He's quite happy where he is in life right now. Yeah.
Well, Scott, before I just showed Sue a document that both Gita and I had to get to work in the medical industry, which goes through Disclosure Scotland, which vets you, and they then clear you to work in respect, and I quote from the document, clear you in respect of regulated work with children and in respect of regulated work with adults, so that we can actually work with that. All that stuff needs to be done up front, because if not, you end up in trouble. And one of the things that I would really like to impress on all the guys listening, all the people listening, get a passport now. if that balloon goes up, you're not going to get one. It's over. You're finished. What you also need is either a US tourist visa to get in there, because otherwise you won't actually board a plane. You won't be allowed to board a plane without a visa. Simple as that. Because I have inquiries, can I not just board a plane and go to the US and apply for refugee status? They won't let you board. The same thing happens with the EU and with the UK. They check your ability to actually land in the country. So you need an EU visa, a Schengen visa, and or a UK visa. If you don't intend to go to the Schengen countries, you don't need a Schengen visa.
Philippe, can
but
I
you
just...
might want to apply for refugee status when the balloon goes up.
Philippe, nature calls. I'll let you talk on. If you can just keep on talking to the group, I'll be right back. Okay.
Okay. Guys, what you need to know is that you will not be leaving South Africa. You will not be allowed to board a plane if you don't have a visa to enter the UK, which is different from the visa to enter the EU, the Schengen visa. They're different visas altogether. So in order to become a refugee, you still need to be here. You need to land here. And you need a passport. Without a passport, you're going nowhere. So get your passport in order now. Get your visa application in for the EU and for Britain. I don't know if you need to give them a departure date, but you will, for Britain, have to show that you are independent financially to get that visa. And you will need to show that you don't draw on the NHS, the National Health Service. So you need a private insurance for the time you're here. Then when you land here, they will actually allow you to fly. Then when you land here, you can go to your border officer, your immigration officer, and say, I claim refugee or asylum status. But you need to be here to do that. If you want to use your options in the EU, you need to be there to do that. So you need to get into the EU lawfully. Unless you want to go to the north of Africa and hop on the sinking boat and row your way to Italy or Greece or whatever it is there. That is not the way to do it. If you want to do it lawfully, you want to fly in from South Africa, you need to have all your documents in order to be able to actually board that plane to get here. Then when you arrive in the country, in Holland or in Germany, wherever you're flying to, then at the border post, you declare yourself an asylum seeker. But without your documents in order, you cannot board that plane. You are bound to stay in South Africa. It is a bad time to try and get a passport. Remember what Malema said. Malema said whites will not be allowed to leave. I don't know why he doesn't want us to leave, but that's what he said. So get your ducks in order now. Don't wait for the balloon to go up and then with a totally overstressed visa application service at the different embassies, try to get your stuff in. It's not going to help. It's not going to work. Get your stuff in order now so that you can board a plane, land, go to your immigration officer and say, I'm claiming. Yeah. And
especially if you're in a hurry, quite a hurry to get your passport or any other document for that matter. I applied for my new driver's license in August of last year. It's 6 months later and I'm still waiting. So the departments, the civil service departments,
Hi, feel better.
Yeah. Sorry, Sue.
No matter.
The civil service departments have become so inefficient. Yes, I've heard people say that some areas are better than others, but the point is that I'm trying to make is that do not rely on your area being any better than any other area. They are inefficient in general. So, the processing of any form of application just takes longer. So make sure you do everything early enough so that you're not caught without the necessary documentation when you really, really need it.
Scott, while you were away, I don't know if you heard us, but what I said is get your passport in order now.
Absolutely.
Get your visa application in order now.
Yeah.
Get your insurance for health. Get your money so that you can show that you are independent. Because without showing that you have access to funds and health insurance, you will not get a visa to enter the UK. If you cannot board a plane, you cannot come to the UK and apply for asylum if the balloon goes up there. If you can't get a Schengen visa, you cannot board that plane to land in Holland or in France or in Belgium to claim asylum. You need to be able to board that plane, get to an immigration officer on entry and say, I'm a refugee, I claim asylum status.
Right.
If your paperwork is not in order, you are not going anywhere. The time to sort all that stuff out is now. You heard Sue explaining how long she has been waiting for very elementary documents to get processed. Get it sorted out now. If there is a problem in South Africa, embassies, consulates are going to be flooded, absolutely flooded. And you're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
And just another tip, again, for parents of young children under the age of 18 years. I think it's 18, it could be 16, but I think it's 18. You are required to travel with an unabridged birth certificate of your children, the original unabridged birth certificate document. So make sure that you haven't got the abridged version only. Double check your documentation and make sure that you've got an unabridged birth certificate for each child.
Okay, now
get your document in order, otherwise you cannot travel.
Yeah, Jaco van der Merwe has asked, has Brexit made it complicated or not to get a visa, and does race play a factor?
Race has never been an issue here. We don't have race issues with visa applications. Not that I'm aware of in any event. The Brexit story, one of the elements, one of the legs of the Brexit story is that we get to determine who comes into our country and who doesn't, and that we are not told by Brussels how many people we must allow and why and what. So they've been tossing up the issues of a point system, similar to Australia, to allow people to get visas. At the moment, the system is no different from what it was before. Nothing has changed at the moment. Nothing. We're still in the same immigration rules as before.
Oh, we're losing the connection.
So,
oh, there you go. You're back again.
Hello?
Yeah, you're back again. Sorry, Philippe, it just went out.
Okay. Jaco, what I'm saying is everything is academic. It's a fantasy. It is a flight of fancy. If you do not have money sufficient to persuade a consular officer to grant you a visa, can show him that you have medical insurance to look after you here, you will not get that visa. Start off by getting your house in order with your paperwork, your visa, Sue says, your police clearance, your driver's get in order. Then come here or tell them that your departure date is not yet known or is on whatever it is, but get your paperwork in order. If you have a visa to come here, you can claim immigration status. You can claim asylum status. Whether they grant it to you is another story. Yeah, when there is a genocidal situation, and you still need to travel. You still need to get here. Without a passport, without visas, you cannot board a plane. It's simple. You're bound to stay there. And Mr. Malema has said, as I said, Scott, whites must not be allowed to leave the country.
Yeah.
So do you really want to wait for that? Get first things first. If you really want to come here, get your travel papers in order, get your documentation in order, get the stuff that you need to get a job in order. Maybe, as Sue says, you might want to become a carer, then you need a police clearance that you don't have convictions. The more you bring with you and you give the immigration authorities as proof that you're a decent person and capable of consideration for refugee status, the more you help them, the easier the process is. If they have to go and apply for all sorts of documentation and extracts from a totally uncooperative and incompetent government, you're going to be left stranded. It's not going to happen. And eventually they're going to say, we cannot verify your story. Bring what they would need to see that you are no risk to the country, that you're going to be an asset. Help them help you. That is the bottom line. And with a lot of people I wrote to, they don't have passports. They've got nothing, absolutely nothing. And as Sue says, get your paperwork to leave to get your children to leave with you. We have heard stories of how long it takes to get an unabridged certificate, or they can't find files or whatever it is. Get that stuff sorted out now. And otherwise you're going to be left behind. And you've got no one else to blame.
Yeah.
Get your ducks in a row. Get sufficient funds to persuade the consular guy to grant you a visa.
Glenn,
He needs to see that what you do when you land here is not his problem. But if you've got no income, no money, no funds, no travel papers, no police clearance, he can't let you in. If you're going to be a threat on the NHS funding, he's not going to let you go here.
Yeah.
That has changed. That's over. That's finished. They won't let you travel. Sort that out.
Philippe, Glenn has asked, what about paying your final taxes in South Africa? Do you know anything about that?
A lot of people who live here. A lot of people who live here and that we've met, South Africans, have not actually immigrated.
Not financially immigrated.
They have not done the final exit from South Africa. Mm-hmm. They are still South African citizens and residents. They have not formally immigrated at all.
Have they got a South African passport still? Do they?
Oh yeah, but they, as far as the state is concerned in South Africa, they still live there. They haven't actually officially immigrated.
The reason I asked that, the reason I asked that, Philippe, is because I read an article just this week that they're bringing in a law that if you're overseas and you have a South African passport and you haven't financially taxed, they're looking at taxing 45% of your income.
We've got a double taxation agreement with South Africa here in the UK, and most countries do. So if they want to start scraping the barrel and trying to find what is what with people, be my guest, they're not really that efficient anyway. But a lot of people haven't left, and what is happening is, particularly the ones in Dubai, who have tax-free incomes,
right?
They are going to be nailed. But people who are here and have paid their tax, and with a double taxation agreement, once they've paid their tax here, they don't need to pay it in South Africa. And if the South African taxation rates become totally outrageous, then I'm sure that they will immigrate. But there is the double taxation provision.
Glenn, does that answer your question? I'm just waiting for Glenn to respond.
Yeah. But most people that we know haven't actually formally immigrated from South Africa and closed all the doors.
I haven't. All my bank accounts are still open. I've still got debit orders running off. I must just make provision for funds, enough funds to be in the bank account to service those debit orders.
And remember that once you claim refugee status and asylum, you cannot go back to South Africa. That is a provision with most countries, that you can't claim refugee and asylum status and then go on holidays to the country where you say you're going to get your throat cut. They don't buy that one. Yeah. So if you claim refugee and asylum status, be aware that that is the end of it. You will not see your friends, your family, your country again, because your status will be revoked. The same in the States, as far as I know, in the US. You cannot go back to your country. That's it. You close the doors forever. So consider that when it comes to things like asylum seeking and refugee status. It's not that easy.
Now, here's an interesting question from Ingrid. She's just asked, if I have a European passport, can I still buy property in the UK after Brexit?
if you have a European passport, you can basically live wherever you like. But if she is in the UK now, then she would be granted leave to remain here for 3 years.
But can she buy property?
After 3 years, well, this is once we're out of the EU.
Yeah.
At the moment, well, the freedom of movement applies. So if she were to come here now and she registers as a resident in the UK, she can buy whatever she likes.
Right.
She can work. She can do anything she wants to do. After Brexit, things change. After Brexit, she would need to. After Brexit, if she then comes to the UK, that is when she would need to apply for leave to remain here and to work here. Now, if she were before Brexit, not. Then she will be treated as a resident. But not as a permanent resident. She would have had to live here for 3 years before Brexit. Otherwise, she can complete those 3 years and then apply for permanent leave to remain. And following that, if she wishes it, she doesn't need to. Once you've got permanent leave to remain, you've got permanent leave to remain. But if she wishes to acquire British citizenship, that is another year. And she would have to pass a test. But as a European, I don't know what European passport she holds, but as a European passport holder, an EU passport holder, if she can make her entry into the UK now, she falls under the freedom of movement regulations. That has not changed to date.
Right.
After Brexit.
Well, I hope that answers your question, Ingrid.
Ingrid, look it up. Yeah, come on, guys, look it up. It's there. Come on, guys. What are you doing? Yeah. Come on, apply yourselves.
All right, guys.
Sorry, Scott.
That's okay. Any further questions you want to ask Philippe or Sue? They've been very, very good. They've been on for nearly 3 hours, so it must be getting close to 9 p.m. their time, and it's getting close to 11 p.m. South African time. All right, here's your last. Here's your last chance to ask questions, and while I'm just waiting for those to come through, can I just thank you both so much? It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you, and you've given some really good advice, and Sue, your first-hand experience and advice is really appreciated. There are a lot of people who've just said thank you so much for your help. So it's been a very, very positive session.
It's a pleasure.
Perhaps she might want to join your panel, Scott, if you ask very nicely. She's a good one.
Yeah, she should join my channel. Yeah, yeah, it'd be a pleasure to have you on our channel. It's actually, I'll tell you about our channel, Sue. It's actually a community channel, and what we actually have is a number of people like Philippe, like Narina, like Carmen, like Vanessa. There's so many names I could. And they're all working in the background, and they're helping people. And I use my channel to promote what they're doing. And for example, next week we have one of our associates, or one of the people that we help. His name is Patrick, and he's helping impoverished whites, and he's getting a delivery of a huge amount of maize meal through another one of our subscribers. And that's the exact sort of thing that we're trying to promote and stimulate. And that's why it's lovely when I got that little text in the IMs here from Johan. And what I'll do is I will send Johan your email address, and then he can contact you and through Philippe. And in fact, I'll send an email to Philippe with Johan's email, and you can contact him, or Sue can contact him direct. All right, so that's basically what this channel is all about. It's people working together, and we've got some great people on board. All right, any further questions?
Scott, what is your surname, and what platform are you using for this community?
When you say platform, oh, you mean YouTube? This is
Are
on.
you using YouTube or
Yeah.
using Zoom? What are you using?
I'm using Skype here,
Okay.
but this is going live out to YouTube. It's on the live stream on YouTube.
Okay.
So we've
Sorry,
had
your surname, Scott? Sorry.
Bolson, Palson.
Thank you.
That's okay.
Anything else we can do for you, Scott?
I'll just ask the side chat once more. Anything else you want to ask, guys? This is your last chance to speak to Philippe and Sue. I'll just give them a few seconds because it takes a while to come through. Okay, they're all saying thank you so much, and you know, I think they've basically got all the information that that they need. And thank you guys so much for being here. And once again, well, obviously I'll be talking to Philippe in the future, obviously by email, or maybe through Skype. But you know, that this idea of having a weekly video, I love that idea, and I really would like you to pursue that and to speak to Narina. And let's get that up and firing, and we'll just put it up on the channel. It'll be a great help.
I know she's been away for a while, and she's back now. She was, I think, in Poland, but she is back. So I hope that we can touch base again. I sent her an email. I haven't heard anything from her yet, but she'll come back, and we can coordinate it.
Right. Cool.
Okay. Thank you very much. Thank you, Scott.
Thank you for your time, Sue, and have a great time in Scotland. You're in very good hands.
Thank you.
And Philippe, thank you so much.
It's a pleasure, good.
Okay, take care. And from everybody in the channel who thank you so much for all the help you've given them, I'm going to say cheers for now.
Okay, now. Bye.
Bye.
All right. Now, that was a really informative live stream, wasn't it? Thank you all for participating and being part of the live stream. And I will see you next Sunday. Good night, everybody. Take care.